Welcome to the Simpler Business Podcast, where we talk about ways to do what you love and serve your people in a way that brings you income and freedom. I'm your host, Marissa Roberts. Join me as I chat with my favorite entrepreneurs about how they simplify their biz so that you can simplify yours. Want to get an endless supply of clients from LinkedIn? My guest today, Karen Yankovich, is the CEO of Uplevel Media and the host of the Good Girls Get Rich podcast. Karen offers results-oriented and expert conversational marketing strategies that position her clients to bring in instant results. Her background includes over 20 years in the field of information technology, marketing, and customer relationships, making social media her ideal niche. Karen loves social media and believes LinkedIn is a powerful platform that so many people don't know how to use properly. So she's here to walk us through it today. Karen, welcome. I'm so excited that you're here.
I am so excited to be here with you today, Marissa. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh my gosh, this is going to be such a good conversation. No one that I know in the entrepreneurial space, small business owner, practically no one uses LinkedIn on a regular basis. They'll go in there when they think of it, a bit of a post and go.
A little bit here. Okay.
There's this traditional thing where people leave corporate and leave LinkedIn. And I'm like, no, there's so much you can do with that as a business owner. So yeah, I'm so excited to chat about it with you today. I think we're going to hit some really good ideas for people that are, practical and actionable things that they can actually do without having to commit to a huge process, but something that they'll actually get results from. And I think that's really what people are looking for. We feel like we have to be everywhere on social media, and LinkedIn feels like, just another platform. But actually, it can be one of the most lucrative ones, right?
Oh, it absolutely is. And I tell my clients, let's spend some time on LinkedIn, make you some real money, and then you can pay people to help you with all those other platforms.
I love that.
Right? This is where the opportunities are. Marissa, if I asked 100 people where they got their biggest job, their biggest client, their biggest opportunity from, 99 of them are going to tell me a referral.
Yeah.
And LinkedIn is where referrals happen online. I'm not asking you to give me 99% of your marketing dollars or time, but how about 50% or 25% so that we are making referrals repeatable so we can get those big juicy contracts. And then again, I'm not saying don't be in other places, but do all that after you've done the money making stuff that you can do on LinkedIn.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds like it's so much more manageable in the long term than actually having to try and be everywhere at once and ghost your business as a result and just completely lose your momentum. Oh, good. Well, I'm excited to jump in. So let's start with establishing a personal brand on LinkedIn. How do we do that?
Yeah. Well, we do that with your profile, right? It is, we live in a world right now, so certainly, a post-pandemic world, if that's what we're living in, we learned how important virtual is, and we learned how important a virtual presence is. And not to say that we're not in person, we are, but at the same time, we are spending a lot more time Googling people, checking out their digital presence than we ever did before. And LinkedIn is where you can tell the world what you want them to know about you. LinkedIn is also all business. So it's not like Facebook, do I put this to my friends? Do I have to decide which list this goes to, or Instagram or TikTok? It's all business. It's like walking into a business networking event. Everyone is there to talk about their business. It doesn't mean you walk up to people and you say, hey, buy my stuff, but that the conversations are around business. And because of that, you don't have to really pitch yourself. So back to why the brand is important. It's like, how are you showing up? How are you showing up for those networking conversations? How are you showing up for, when people search your name online, right? Are you showing up like you want to be seen? And so many people say to me, well, LinkedIn is it's like your online resume. And I really believe that your resume is all about who you used to be. LinkedIn should be positioning you for the person you're stepping into, right? Like dress for the job you want, right? You should be shining a light on the person you're becoming, the people you support and help, the mission you have in this world. And it is not about your business. Your website is about your business. Maybe your LinkedIn company page is about your business. Your LinkedIn profile is about you, the brand of you, what makes you amazing, and why you are somebody I should have in my world.
I love that distinction that you made between company page and profile, because that's what I see over and over again is, what do I put on my company page? What do I put on my profile? If I have a personal brand, do I just need a mirror image of the company page and the profile? And there's a lot of confusion with that. So that clears it up a lot.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So, in terms of personal brand, it's all about what you can bring, and you've already got a
Mhm.
primed audience. And that's why LinkedIn is such a sweet spot to hit. You're right. Because if I think about Facebook, that problem of do I post to my friends, like do I post to my profile page because that's where I've got the most followers, but they're not actually interested in my business, or do I post to my business page where I have 1/10 of the followers, but they're actually there for business stuff? It's a bit of a mind game,
And does
isn't it?
anybody see it anyway, right? Because we never know what Facebook algorithm's doing, right? And does anybody see it anyway? So
That's so true. Okay, so
it's
personal
yeah.
brand, personal profile. Great. Okay, we've got that. What about relationship building? Because the thing that a lot of people worry about is with LinkedIn, their experiences, they've been on LinkedIn and they get random messages from complete strangers that are just a pitch in the first message. And you know which ones they are. They're, really long message, feels a little bit spammy. So I know a lot of my listeners are worried about doing the same thing because they don't want to get hit with the spam tag. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So you're right. And that does denigrate LinkedIn, and it makes people shy away. But I like to refer to LinkedIn as my money tree. And that is those are the weeds. So if we do not, if we do not, care for our money tree because we're worried about the weeds, we are leaving so much opportunity on the table. So I think what I teach people how to do is really micro target. I do think like your network, your connections, your relationships, that's at the heart of everything that I teach. At the end of the day, of course, I'd like you to post, but don't really care about the algorithm. What I care is who's on your calendar, right?
Yeah.
So I also believe with every fiber in my body that there never has to be cold outreach. There is always somebody, like whoever's listening today, like there's two people right here, Marissa and I, you can connect with on LinkedIn and say, hey, I heard this episode and here's what I thought about it. I'm going to share it with my audience. Now you're providing value to both of us, right? And it's a great way to start building relationships. Do that, times a couple each week. I mean, I usually start people off at about 5 people a week to do outreach to.
Mhm.
And, remember, you already got probably a lot of people already in your network, right? Let's not overlook them. Like, reach out to some of them. Hey, what's going on? How's it been going? You're building actual relationships with people. And this is timeless marketing. Like, this has worked since the beginning of time. We know that people buy from other people. Referrals get us our biggest opportunities.
Mhm.
So when I think about building relationships on LinkedIn, there's 3 categories of relationships that I like to see you building. And one, of course, is who might buy your stuff, right? Like, let's get real. We're a business. We want to be focused. We want to be micro targeted, and we want to focus on who our ideal clients are. But, that's actually the least lucrative, frankly, category, because nobody wants to have those conversations. Here's what I do. Give me your credit card, right?
Yeah.
The second 2 categories is what makes the LinkedIn strategies magnetic, and people start coming to you for your business. Second category being who can give you referrals, right? Like thinking about having conversations with people that maybe also have an audience of people similar to the audience you're trying to reach. And you're reaching out to them and saying, hey, let's chat. Maybe we can collaborate. Who do you know that might be interested in what I do? Let me know what you do. Maybe I can help you, right? Those conversations there is probably the vast majority of the work that I personally do on LinkedIn, because that to me is where the biggest opportunities are. If I meet somebody in like the back of an Uber and I'm like, oh, I teach LinkedIn and PR marketing, they're like, okay, great. But if Marissa says, no, you need to listen to Karen because she teaches LinkedIn and PR marketing, now people are listening to you, right? So take that same concept to LinkedIn and just have 1 or 2 conversations each week with somebody that can maybe make some referrals to you, and you can make some referrals to them. The third category is the category that so many people overlook, and that is journalists. Who are the people that write about the kinds of things that you are expert in? Who are the podcast hosts that talk about the kinds of things that you're expert in? I mean, Marissa, you have a podcast. I have a podcast. Do you wake up every morning with people on LinkedIn going, I love Marissa's podcast this week, tagging you, talking about it, tagging your guests? Like, it doesn't happen as often as people think. So you will remember that.
Yeah.
When people do that, you will remember that. And I bet you also probably get a lot of like cold pitches, right? So when you're connecting people with people in a warm way and sharing what you love about their show or sharing their article that they wrote and, saying, I love this article by, not just sharing the article, but connecting with the writer of the article and building like connecting with them on LinkedIn and tagging them in your post and saying, such a great point of view by this person. The news media needs us doing this, and they will remember this. And, it used to be 20 years ago, they would say, like, if it bleeds, it leads, right? Well, now they talk about if it's shareable, it's airable. And if you go to a newsroom, they actually have leaderboards with how many social media posts and likes and comments all of their hosts and journal, their hosts have. So they're looking for this. If you're doing this, they're going to know who you are. And then when they're looking for an expert, maybe the next time they're looking for an expert, they'll call you, right? So it's about building actual relationships. If you're a local business, if you have a business that geography is important, you should know every single one of your local journalists that write about what you do. Buy them coffee, take them out to lunch, build actual relationships with them. But remember, I'm going to take this a step back now and say, if you've done the work and you have a great LinkedIn profile, it makes this part a lot easier because your profile does a lot of the heavy lifting. And then now when people Google you, right, when they throw your name in a Google search before they want to hire you, not only do they see your LinkedIn profile, but they see pages and pages of media that you've been featured in, right? And it gives you so much credibility. And that's how you land those bigger contracts. It sounds complicated, but it's really almost the most simple process that there is in marketing. It's just a matter of being consistent and looking for a consistent way to have these calls on your calendar.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so build an authentic relationship, do lots of sharing, lots of tagging, lots of commenting. Think of it in terms of two-way referrals. Would you actually reach out and be like, hey, this is where I get a little bit like, nervous about doing stuff like this. Would you be reaching out and making the relationship first before offering two-way referrals, because you don't want to jump straight in?
I mean, well, first of all, there's probably people in your network that you can do this with today. So the low-hanging fruit are people you're probably already connected with, right? So you can say things like, and maybe you don't even know how you're connected to them, right? If you know how you're connected to them, you can say, hey, you remember we met at that conference? Can you believe that was 5 years ago? Or whatever that is, right? But if it's somebody that you've never met, and you're like, honestly, I don't know how we're even connected here on LinkedIn, but your name came up on my network and it looks like you serve this audience. I do something similar. I wonder if it's worth a quick call to see if there's any, collaboration opportunities. And I am a big fan of these calls being fast, 15-minute calls, because it's a lot easier to get a yes for a 15-minute call than it is for a 30-minute or a half hour or an hour-long call. And if on that call there's opportunity, then you can book that second call. But also, if on that call you find out that the person on the other end is a little nutty and you really don't want to look for opportunities, you're not stuck talking to them for a half an hour or an hour, right? It's a quick call. But then as far as outreach, there's so many ways, let's just use Facebook groups as an example. There's every Facebook group that's focused on entrepreneurs has hey, are we connected on LinkedIn, right? Like, you don't have to connect with all those people, but do a little research, spend an hour looking at who those people are that, might be somebody that you can collaborate with, and say, hey, I'm connecting with you from that post in this group. But as I look at your profile, I think there might be some real conversations we should have, right? So you can do that. And this is a ninja trip, Marissa, but another way to do this is to, we're taught as entrepreneurs to build our email list. Well, what if you took that email list and looked for those people on LinkedIn and said, hey, you know a lot more about me than I know about you. These are your leads because they're already on your list, right? What if you then say, thank you so much for allowing me into your inbox every week. I want to know more about you. So I sought you out on LinkedIn to connect with you here. And it looks like you're doing some really interesting things, right? So these are the things. Don't do this times 100. Do this times 5 each week. And I'm telling you, everything's going to change in your business.
I really love that ninja trick. That was so clever, because you're right. I've got so many people on my email list who I do actually connect with on a regular basis based on that email subscriber relationship. But I've never thought to take that the next step further and discover more about them via their LinkedIn profile and see what they actually do in terms of their own work, which now I feel like a real dork saying that, right? Because it sounds so obvious, but well, here's
the thing. It's not as easy as it sounds, because sometimes people, first of all, sometimes they use their personal email and you don't really know. It's hard to associate their email address on your list to their LinkedIn profile. I would say you're lucky if you can do 50% of them. So what it's had me do is now I always ask for last names, for example, right? Like when I ask for subscribers, sometimes I'm like, I don't care what their last name is. And I just ask for their first name and their email address. Now I always ask for their last name, but still their name could be Mary Smith and they could be marysmith@gmail.com. I will never know who they are on LinkedIn, right? So it's not as easy to find these people as it sounds. And then, if you want to take this even further, look for the people that open your emails, look for the people that click on your emails and start there, and then, do some outreach to those people on LinkedIn. And this is what I mean by you never have to do this in a cold, there's no need for cold outreach ever, because there's just no end of places that you can go to look for these people, conferences, who are the speakers, telesummits, like all these like panels that people do, right? Are you connecting with all the speakers or some of the speakers as it relates to you? There's just so many ways to do this. And you can, and to your point, you can, if you think there's somebody that you could collaborate with, you can say, I just heard your talk on the blah, blah, blah summit. And you know what? I have a very similar approach. I wonder if we should have maybe we should have a call. You never know where this can go, right? I mean, and you have a podcast. I have a podcast. You can invite them to be a guest on your show. You could even simply just say, invite them to do a LinkedIn Live with you, right? So it doesn't even have to necessarily be a guest on your show. So there's so many things you can do to further these relationships, but doing it in, again, a very micro-targeted way.
Yes, I love that. All right. So strategy-wise, we're talking about using your connections that you're making to book calls and kind of fill up your calendar with a few calls each week. And those calls are strategically 15-minute calls to talk to somebody about potential collaborations that you can do with them, right?
Unless you know the person well, you feel yourself out. If you know the person and it's just been a while since you've connected, make it a half hour, right? But I like to keep them short.
Yeah. And so you'd say that's the secret to booking those calls is building that relationship first.
Yeah. And letting people know why you want to do it. I mean, it's okay to say, I think there's opportunities here. Again, everybody's there for their business. You don't have to do any fake, I saw this article that I thought might interest you. You don't have to do any of that. You can we're grown-ups. We can approach other people like grown-ups and say, you know what? I love what you do. There's ways, if you see people featured in the media, you can say, I just saw that feature you did. Good job. Like, I'd love to hear more about what you do, right? And be genuine about it. Be genuinely curious about these things.
It's so simple but powerful at the same time. And I feel like the simplicity of it is probably the part that I like the most, because we're all feeling so overwhelmed. We're all feeling so busy. We feel like, I don't want to add another strategy. But this is something that can be done in just a few minutes.
It is. And that's what takes me back to what I said in the very beginning. Get your biggest clients first and then pay people to help you with all the busy work sites that are out there. But, it's important to remember too, Marissa, that when you're looking at LinkedIn strategy, like let's say you sell pens, right? Like you're not looking to sell a pen on LinkedIn. You're looking for a distributor that wants to buy 10,000 of your pens. Right. So I did and I'm starting to, if you guys are watching the video, like the sun is now coming into my window here. So if you can't see me, that's why, if I'm being ascended, that's why. But I went to a networking meeting a couple months ago in person here. I live in New Jersey, right outside of New York City. And it was a women's networking meeting. And, they went around the meeting and asked everybody, how can we serve you? What would help you? And it was all women. And I was one of the last people to go. And not almost every single person said, well, I'm a coach. I'd like a coaching client, or I sell pens. Who wants to buy a pen? Right. And when it got to me, I really had to temper myself a little bit, because I really wanted to jump in and say, like, my heart was like breaking a little bit, because I was like, I want every one of you to say, I sell notebooks. Who do you know that owns a stationery store? Not who do you know that wants to buy a notebook. So it's shifting your thinking a little bit when you're doing this marketing on LinkedIn, right? Mm-hmm. You're not, again, nobody's looking for the buy my stuff. And if you're a coach, right? Like, partner with other coaches that might be a good collaboration, right? If you have a coach, you can say, I've got this, I've got this free assessment. Does anybody here have an audience of people that might be willing to send out an email from me to your email list about my free assessment, right? Like, just think bigger, and not just be like, well, I want to sell another one of these things. And that's one of the biggest shifts that many people have to make when they move their marketing to LinkedIn marketing and get away from the transactional stuff to more of the higher ticket stuff. And even coaches, like when I work with coaches and consultants, we live in a world right now where people will pay for fast results. And I know that, if you're a weight loss coach, you can't say, and if you pay me double, you'll lose that weight by Friday. Like, I know that doesn't happen, right? But there's a lot of things you can do to offer like a jump start, right? Like, hey, let's get together. We're going to spend a half day together up front, and we're going to clean out your pantry, and we're going to do this, and we're going to create exercise routines for you. And now you've just doubled whatever you charge for 3 months. Now you can double that, right? That's what I want you to be thinking about, not overcharging, but having a big, fat, juicy offering that you can over deliver on if you have enough budget in it. And that's what I mean when I say that's where the money is. It's not just that. The fact is the people on LinkedIn have the highest income medium of any other platform. So there's that fact. But again, we're offering our big, fat, juicy packages there as well. So it's a double whammy as to why it's so profitable to be there.
Yeah. And it never really twigged for me audience-wise that budget's not necessarily a massive consideration for them as opposed to other social media platforms. That's a pretty big insight. And 12 years in the business, and I would have made that network marketing meeting mistake too. I would have been like, hi, I'm Marissa. I help business owners streamline their businesses. Anybody looking for that? And actually, no, I should be like, does anyone have any clients or anyone on their audience that's struggling with overwhelming their business that they think might need some help? Such a tiny shift, but it's so much better.
It is. Or, I'm always looking to build, for 2024, I'm looking to have 2 joint venture opportunities every month. So who do you, are you interested in doing that where I can come to your list and give them a presentation and maybe there's just no end of these things, but thinking bigger and shifting, I want, and I don't know if your audience, I should have asked this question, if your audience is mostly women or not, but I want more women to have more money. Yes. I think women with money change the world. And it starts with us. It starts here. We have to start thinking bigger. We have to start thinking for the bigger opportunities.
Yeah. In fact,
I listened to a podcast today for a guy I never heard of before. And it was so funny. And I love men and I have plenty of men that are clients. But the reason I support women is because I feel like they don't feel included. But I listened to a podcast just a couple hours ago, and there was a guy on there. No woman would ever say this. And I just don't even know who he was. But I went down this little rabbit hole, as you do on social media, right? And I'm like, I want to hear this guy's show. And he said, I was the first person to do organic marketing on Facebook. The first person. Nobody ever did it before me. And I'm thinking,
wow,
what? How do you even know that? And what? But he was confidently saying, I was the first person to ever organic market on Facebook. Maybe he was, right? But women need to have more of that confidence when we are portraying our brand and our products and our services and show up like we're worthy of those conversations.
Yeah. I think I'm going to leave a link to your podcast in the show notes because I think the more women hear those conversations, the more confident they're going to get, the more ideas they're going to get, the less imposter syndrome they're going to feel. So yeah, I think that's good. Yeah. Okay, so if you're listening, everybody, the Good Girls Get Rich podcast, it's Karen's podcast. I'll put a link in the show notes. Add it to your driving playlist, add it to your walking playlist, add it to your cleaning playlist. Well, hopefully you don't need a cleaning playlist because we're at the point where we can outsource that. That would be lovely.
There you go. Make another client on LinkedIn and pay your cleaning lady.
Exactly. All right.
Or
so
person.
Yes. Okay. So LinkedIn trends. Okay. This is something that a lot of listeners ask me is that whole, what's the hottest thing on LinkedIn right now? And I feel like your strategies have told us that we don't have to worry about trends anymore. We can just go with a process that's going to be reliable. But I know I'm going to get asked that question. So what do you see that happens a lot on LinkedIn that's getting good traction? Is it LinkedIn Live? Is it anything in particular that you've noticed is doing well?
It's so, I wish I could sit here and tell you, and this is exactly what you need to do. But it changes, of course, the minute we say it. True. But I will say that there are people out there, that I do not do this, but I am so happy to credit the people that do a crazy amount of research on this stuff. And they put all these posts out and then they count beans and they count things, likes and all that stuff. And traditionally, in the last few years, what's been consistent is that LinkedIn needs less content, but consistent content. So if you post more than once a day on LinkedIn, it actually starts to diminish your reach. Mm-hmm. So at the most, you want to post 7 posts, and you can schedule it right in. LinkedIn has a built-in scheduler. You can schedule it right in their scheduler. It takes 15 minutes for the week, and you're done for the week, right? So at the most, do that. And keep in mind that if you share somebody else's post, that counts as your post. Okay, so you can like and comment and engage all you want, but if you share it and you've posted that day, then you're going to drop the reach of the post that you posted. Okay. And this, again, the minute the words come out of my mouth could change, but it's been consistent. LinkedIn is spending a little bit less focus on hashtags lately than they have been in the past.
Yeah.
Video is always hot. It's hot everywhere. I don't necessarily know if LinkedIn Live is going to get you more activity, but sometimes I turn on live and I have 25 people on. Sometimes I turn on live and 0 people are on, and it doesn't matter time of day of week. There's just no rhyme or reason to it, right? Yeah. So I think what's important is consistency. What serves you, and then showing up consistently, and then being more intentional about your engagement on LinkedIn. We're not really even going to get into their paid versions here, but the Sales Navigator is the version I use. And if you're going to use any paid version, use that. But LinkedIn's done a lot of things in the last couple of years that make it less necessary to upgrade. For example, you can now ring the bell of somebody that you're interested in, right? So if there's a particular client or journalist that you are, you've got your eyes set on, there's a little bell under their thing. And what that means, if you hit that bell, is they don't know that you rang their bell. But what it means now is you're going to see their content in your wall. And now you can engage on it. So be intentional. Pick 10 people or 15 people and keep an eye on their content. And here's the thing too, if they're not on LinkedIn, find somebody that is, right? Yeah. There's plenty of people that are not on LinkedIn, but there's also plenty of people that are, right? So let's not focus on the people that are not there. Let's focus on the people that are there and be intentional about building actual relationships with them. And it comes down to, again, the profile piece is important, right? I had somebody about a month ago. I have my podcast and I have a program that I run, right? That supports women with LinkedIn and PR strategies. And I had somebody book a call on my calendar. It was like Friday afternoon, and she booked a call for like 5 o'clock on Friday. And I'm like, wow, how did I let that happen? Right. So, but she did not know who I was at noon on Friday. But she saw me engaging on somebody else's content, went to my profile, saw that it really easy to book a call on my calendar. There was a button right on my profile that said, click here if you want to get on the calendar. She saw a spot open for that same day, booked it for that same day, and joined my program. So it can be that easy, but I had all my ducks in a row for that to happen for her.
Groundwork
right?
done.
My profile was on point, and I had that link easy for her to find, and and I was engaging on somebody. She didn't see it from a post I created. She saw it from me engaging in other people's things, right? So be a part of the conversation and just spend some time doing that. And it doesn't take that long. If you do a half hour 3 times a week, it's a ton of time. It's a ton of time. So from a trend standpoint, yes, do video. Definitely don't the least traction is if you drop in like a YouTube link. So, if you're going to do video, you can either upload native video up to 10 minutes or do a live. Yeah. Otherwise, just expect it to be a little bit less. But also think about the user experience, right? I can drop a link to my podcast in there, but is anybody really going to listen to my whole show from scrolling through LinkedIn, right? But if I put like some promo materials in there or even a promo video, that might get them intrigued and have them go on over to my show then and save it for the next time they're in the car, right? Yeah. But they don't need to have the whole link in there because it's unlikely that they're going to listen to it right then and there, right? So
yeah, and if they like the clip,
about how you're doing that.
Yeah. I was just thinking about how many times I've seen a podcast promo clip and I've loved that little snippet, that 30-second snippet, and I've shared that on my LinkedIn, whereas I wouldn't have shared if it was just this week we're talking about this, here's the link. I wouldn't share that on my LinkedIn. But yeah, that's such a good point. Okay, cool. I love it. Everything is, I feel like we've got a plan now. We've got actions we can take for that plan. It's no pressure because it's actually authentic relationships. So it doesn't feel like you have to do a hard pitch or present a perfectly polished experience. We're helping the other people as much as we're helping ourselves. So that feels really good, which makes it feel doable. Let's talk about your LinkedIn quiz. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
So, when you said when we started this show, which is I just don't know anybody that's really using LinkedIn. I had a little bit of an epiphany a couple months ago because I was in a coaching program and everybody I know, and it was smallish, there was maybe 10 people in it, and everybody there I know LinkedIn would have absolutely changed their business. And somehow, and I was a student in this program, so I was not out there marketing my own stuff. But at one point it came up and every single one of them said, oh, I don't use it. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to start. I don't know what to do. And I'm like, I am preaching to the choir. I talk to my podcast, and everybody listening to my podcast knows what I'm talking about. My email list, I know are already interested in this. How do I reach these people that I know there's so much opportunity on LinkedIn for, but they don't know where to start, so they don't even listen to what I've got because they feel like it's just not for them, right? So that's why I'm like, all right, I'm going to start with this assessment, and basically, I wanted it to be useful, right? So when you take this assessment, it's short. So I don't even think there's 10 questions, and then you get assigned a marketing style. And then based on your marketing style, you get some emails that'll say, start this way. Like maybe you're more of a relator and you want to talk to people. Maybe you're more analytical and you want to share statistics and white papers, right? So we've got some tips for all the different marketing styles. And then you also get the next day, you'll get some tips of things you might want to watch out for based on your style, right? Like you might go too far in this direction or too far in that direction. But I also decided I just didn't want it to be so dry because so many people think LinkedIn is so dry that I also wanted to infuse some energy to it. So then I did some research and we associated a crystal to each style that would amplify the energy of your marketing style if you wore that crystal or if you keep that crystal near you. And then I also created morning visualizations for each type so that a way to you to just kind of start your day, putting yourself in the right mindset for whatever it is your marketing style is. So it's so much more than just do this on LinkedIn. It's really because everything I do really encompasses the whole person. We talked a lot about strategy here, Marissa, but what we're really asking women to do is to step into a new identity. And that's not easy to do, right? It's just not easy to do. I'm saying, forget about selling pens. You're going to be the person selling 1 million pens. And they're like, well, wait, I don't know how to be that person, right? So I really think that we need to support women, not just with the strategy, but with, so many women have beautiful, high ambitions, but their energy doesn't match it. Their energy is low and their ambitions are high. So the work that I do, I try to align them. And this is part of the work we did with the quiz to help align their energy with their ambitions. So it was a lot of fun to put together, and we're having a lot of fun with it, even within our program with my students. I just mailed them all necklaces with their crystal on it. And, it's been a lot of fun to kind of just it's the same strategies, but really incorporate the left brain and the right brain into it and not just have it be so cut and dry and so bland.
Yeah, dry is the word, isn't it? Yeah, this sounds so much more appealing. I love it.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to put together. It was a lot of fun to put together.
I'm going to go take it myself. Okay, so I'll make sure I've got a link in the show notes for that. So it's linkedinquiz.com, right?
That's right.
Beautiful.
And for whatever reason, if that doesn't go to where it goes, because sometimes people tell me it doesn't, if you go to KarenYankovich.com/quiz, it'll get you there also.
Oh, lovely. Okay. And
it's all over my website too. So,
they can find it easily.
You cannot find it.
That's how we like it. And if the listeners want to hear more from you or they want to connect with you, where's the best way for them to have a chat? I mean, I'm thinking, well, they should book into your calendar and have a call, right?
They absolutely should. They should listen to my podcast. KarenYankovich.com/call gets you to my calendar. But connect with me on LinkedIn, and I'm at Karen Yankovich across all social media. So that's the best way to, wherever listen, I use all those other platforms. Most of the business comes from LinkedIn, but, we do a lot of marketing for the podcast and things like that across the other platforms.
So you're pretty easy to find no matter where they're looking.
Really? Yeah, it's pretty hard to not find me.
I love it. Okay, I feel quite hopeful about LinkedIn now, so thank you. I feel like
I'm so glad.
Half an hour and I'm like, yay. Yeah.
Well, let me know how it goes.
Yes, definitely. I'm going to do the quiz. I'm going to put a bit of structure in place strategy-wise for my LinkedIn, but I'm going to do it in a way that feels good, and I think that's going to be the key that little sharing.
That's absolutely true. That's why we did the quiz, so that you can do it in a way that feels good to you.
Oh, good. Okay, so everybody listening, I've got the links in the show notes, so it's really easy to find more from Karen when you're ready. I think you should jump straight into it because LinkedIn is one of those pools where a lot of people have created their profile, but not a lot of people are swimming in there every day or doing the sort of things that are going to make a big impact on their business. So if you go in and try this, try it over the next month, come on over to our profiles and let us know how you go, because we want to know exactly what you try, exactly how it works out. We want to hear your success stories because I think it's going to be amazing. And if you enjoyed listening to this episode as much as I've enjoyed chatting with Karen today, please head over to Apple Podcasts, leave us a review, because I want to make sure that we're talking about topics that are really helpful for you. The more you share with us, the more we can share that's going to help you too. And yeah, hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next episode. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Simpler Business Podcast. If you did, please subscribe, rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. There's a link in the show notes to make it nice and easy for you, just the way we like it. If you're ready to simplify and scale your business, you can get started with my free audio class at marissaroberts.com. See you next time.